So today I'm going to do a video on Dynamic Distant Objects LOD, mainly for SkyrimVR, how to set it up, install it, and what you need for your specific mod order. It's very simple, just if you don't know what you're looking for, I can see it being a little confusing for some people. Um, what is, I just call it DYN for short. What is DYN? So basically it enhances all your distance. It'll add objects. If you have tree mods, it makes proper distant um, LOD images. They have a couple good comparisons here. So vanilla, and then you can see all the new objects it created on low. And then medium fills it in even more, and high a little bit more. Can look at a couple other ones. This one, for example, that's vanilla. I mean, it's just crazy difference just from vanilla to low. So, and then medium, and then high. So for me, I use medium. Um, Only in rare occasions, high is a big difference. Um, but I mean, even just low is a huge difference between vanilla. But the performance between low and medium's not huge, but high can be a little taxing, so I'd recommend medium when we're setting it up, which we'll go over in a second. But I mean, the difference between vanilla, like using it and not using it, is such a big difference. Everybody should be using this program. So what do you need? So you need the main program and the resources. So it's on the Old Rim site. It has all the downloads you need there. So first you're going to get the main program, which is just a manual download. So you download that, and then you're going to get the SE resources, as you can see, required for SEVR. So you're going to download that to your mod manager. So once you have that done, go to your downloads, find out wherever you downloaded it to, extract it, and then this folder, go inside, you'll see a DYN folder. So you're just going to copy that and then go to wherever your SkyrimVR is installed and just paste it. So you'll have it here. Now if you're using Mod Organizer 2, you're going to have to add it as a new executable. And there's actually two you need to add. It's going to be the main DYN exe, which is this one. So when you go to it, make sure you're getting the right one. It'll be this DYN DyndoLOD x64 exe, and you also have to do the texgen. So it'll be in the same folder, but it'll be texgen x64. So add both of those as new executables inside Mod Organizer 2. If you're using Vortex, you can just make shortcuts to your desktop. It doesn't really matter. All right, so close that. So after you have the program installed, you want to install the resources. The resources need to be very high in your load order, above all your other textures. When you're installing it, check all four of these boxes. Don't worry about any of these other ones. Hit install. Now you got your resources all set up. So the next thing you're going to need is indistinguishable billboards for Skyrim. And this is for any tree mod. You need to have these installed. Gives you a little description if you don't know what a billboard is right here. Basically, they're textures that also have text files with them that give information about the specific tree mod. It's mostly just for tree mods. So it gives it the correct sizing and stuff for the program to create proper distant tree models. But you need this one. Now, depending on which tree mod you have, you use different one. It doesn't really matter too much, but if you're using enhanced vanilla trees, I usually use the Lush Dark. That one um, lines up pretty well if you're using the vert textures with EVT. So if you don't know, you can just use um, the regular medium, and that'll work fine. But for a lot of the ones with the more lush branches, use the Lush Dark one. Looks best to me in VR. So you'll download that, and you can put that right under resources in your load order. So once you got those two, you have to decide if you want to use the dynamic part of this. The dynamic part is your distance, waterfalls, and windmills. And the only way for that to work is you have to be using SKSE. So if you're not using SKSE, that portion just won't work. If you are, you want to go and you need an extra file. So if you go here, and this is the main website that the creator posts stuff on. Obviously, you need SKSE, but then you need either the DLL or Papyrus utility. I use this one, so if you click on it, it'll take you here. Papyrus util, modder scripting utility functions. You want the VR version. So you just download it, install it with your mod manager. This one is just script folders and a plugin, so it doesn't really matter where you put it. I have that way up at the top of my order, but nothing overwrites it, so it doesn't really matter where you put it in your order. There's no plugin or anything for it. So once you have those two, you want to go to wherever, or to your Dyn folder here. You want to go to Edit Scripts, go to the Dyn again, and then you want to come down to this file. It's the dyn sse.ini, and double click on it. And now what you're looking for is ignore large references. By default, you want it to do this in VR. So this will be normally 0. Change that to 1 and save it. This will keep it from making an ESM file, which you don't need in VR. It's mainly due to this value. By default, this value is the same as your UGrid, so it doesn't really matter to know that, but it's one less ESP you have to deal with, or one less plugin you have to deal with in your load order, and it doesn't actually do anything for VR unless you're changing this value in your INI. So go ahead and set that to 1 and save it, and you're all set with that. So now we have everything we need for this to work. But then you have to think about what's in your load order. So you need proper billboards, and as I mentioned, billboards are just textures plus a text file that tell the program how to set them up properly. So most tree mods have them. So for example, we'll go to enhanced vanilla. So for this one, if you're using release candidate 4, it has them built in. When you're installing it, it'll ask you to install pre-rendered or billboards. So you select billboards. If you're using another mod like 3D trees, that one, it has them as a separate one. So for 3D trees, it has them right here. Now it does have these experimental ones for 3D billboards, but they don't work very well. He just kind of tried to throw them together to help people, and it doesn't have all the tree models, so it's kind of weird. So you want to just get the regular billboards here. If you're using a mod like 3D Landscapes, that one has its own. It's basically any mod that has trees should have these. Some mods with like I think Majestic Mountains has their own, but anyway, you look for them, billboards there. So you're going to download those and put those directly below whatever mod that you're using. So say you're using 3D trees, put the billboards right below it. And you want those all below resources in your load order. So resources goes way up high. Any of your tree mods are going to go down below. So once you have your billboards and everything installed, ready to go, you're going to run texgen. So you're going to come up here, find your texgen, and run it. Just takes a second to load, depending on how big your order is. Alright, so once you're done, you really don't have to change this at all. You just hit start, and it'll start to run. To save time, I already have one loaded that ran. So once it's done, you get completed successfully, and then just hit exit. So once that's done and that's exited, you're going to want to come in to here and you'll see a texgen output. Go ahead and zip that. And then once that's zipped up, you're going to install that as a mod. So go here and you'll click there, and then there it is. So texgen output. Click OK. And at the very bottom here, you'll see it. Activate it. And then you'll start. And then if you're curious, texgen basically goes through your mod list and combines a bunch of textures to make LOD textures. So anyways, all right, so we'll go ahead and find your DYN here, start that up. Let this load. All right, so with this, you want to go to advanced. Now you got this screen here. Now most of this, some of these won't be checked by default. I think all of these will be. You want generate DyndoLOD here. This is what will create your distant waterfalls and windmills. So if that's not checked, you won't get them. I like Windows and high here. This makes it so Windows react to daylight. So the distant windows will have either a glow or not, depending on the day, the time of day and stuff like that. And then I use candles. I don't really like the FX glow. It makes like a crazy weird looking bloom. So I don't use that. And then you want to go here. This is all your world spaces based on your mod list. So you're just going to go select all. And then here's your presets, low, medium, high. So I do medium, and then you just hit OK, and it'll start. And this takes a while. It can take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, depending on your load order and your computer speed. For me, it takes about 10 minutes, give or take. So I already ran it, so we didn't have to sit here and wait. So I'll show you here. So once it's actually done, you'll get this. Worlds completed successfully. Now here you want to hit save and exit. So that'll generate your ESP. So back here, same exact thing as we did before. Make a zip out of that folder. This one's a lot bigger than the texgen, so this takes a couple minutes. Well, not a couple minutes, but it'll take a minute. Um, Now, we're pretty much done once we activate this. The times you'd need to rerun this is changing mods specifically that change your trees. If you say you add a mod like Great Forest of the Whiterun Forest mod that adds all those trees outside, makes it a big forest outside Whiterun, you'd have to rerun it for that. Something like bent pines, pretty much anything that you'd add new objects into the world, new buildings, things that change the exterior, you'd want to rerun it. If you're just changing basics textures, you usually don't have to. It honestly depends. A lot of times you don't have to rerun it, but if you're changing things that are adding or taking away objects, especially big objects from the world, you'd want to rerun it. So now that it's all done and zipped up, we'll come back here and hit OK. Alright, so once that is loaded, we'll activate it. And then this ESP you want pretty much at the bottom of your order. So when you're looking at your load order, you want it pretty much at the very bottom. And that's it. I mean, it's simple stuff. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just knowing what mods you have that have billboards, but it's just going to be like your environmental ones pretty much that have them. Tree mods, most flora mods don't have them because plants don't usually have LODs. Trees, some building mods have them. One other thing I wanted to mention is 3D LODs. So if you're using enhanced vanilla textures, you do have the option to use 3D LODs, which means it uses a actual mesh as the LOD instead of just a flat texture. It can look a lot better. Performance is can be a little heavy. You can look at like a 5 to 10 FPS difference using the 3D ones. There's nothing extra you need to download if you're using EVT. So going in here, as long as you selected the billboards, you should be all set. How to make it 3D is basically with a setting, which I'll show you here. It talks about it here. So basically all you're doing is going back to that INI file. You're going to here, tree LOD, and you're setting that to 0. So you set that to 0, and it's called Ultra Trees here. You set that to 0, hit save. I don't want them because I don't use them, but so what'll happen is you have to go in. So when you go into Dyn here, you have to change one setting for it to work properly. You can set it to high preset. That'll automatically set it to what the right one is, but as I said, that's even more performance. So high plus 3D LODs is going to be a pretty significant hit on your performance. But if you want to use medium, you also notice this will be grayed out when you undo that other one. So you want to click medium. You want to come all the way down to tree, and instead of billboard here, you're going to go to edit, and you're going to hit LOD 4 and hit OK. And this is going to basically use that mesh file to create the LOD, which will be a 3D object. Some people can't live without them. I personally don't really care. They're not that big of a difference to me, but some people think it's night and day and they love it, so that's an option for you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's one of those programs I think everyone should be running. I mean, you can just tell from the difference in those screenshots how much of a difference your distance is going to look. It's going to reduce the pop-ins. If you ever had issues with the trees being half cut off, it just means you have an issue with your ordering and or you didn't run DYN, because that should usually resolve as long as you're ordering right, you have the right billboards. That should resolve any issues with cut off trees or anything. But yeah, I mean, just looking at this picture here, like vanilla of all these new objects and stuff, so it greatly reduces pop-in because you're walking around here and these buildings are already here, so they're not going to be popping in on you. Here's an example of the 3D LODs. So if you have the darker coloring, it's not as noticeable, but like this will look like these, but they'll be darker. But this is with the 3D, so it looks more like the normal tree. And when you're walking around, there's basically no transition from the distance object to the main one, which that's pretty cool, is there's basically no transition at all. So that's an option for those running enhanced vanilla trees. That's the only one I've tried it with. I know that works. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful, and if you have any issues with it, just hit me up on Reddit. Later.